In part one, we were looking at this question of the money market, in which we said the only bank in the economy is the central bank. There are no commercial banks in the economy. In part A, we established the relationship between interest rate and money demand. In part B, we determined the equilibrium interest rate. And in part C, we drew the money market diagram. Now, in part D, we want to look at what happens if we increase the money supply. So part D is about an increase in money supply, where the question talks about how the central bank wants to increase the money supply by $50. In the first part, we want to describe the process by which the central bank can increase the money supply. Now, the central bank can increase money supply through what we call an expansionary open market operation. Now, before we look at what an expansionary open market operation is, let's recall what is just an open market operation. Now, open market operation is buying and selling of bonds for money by the central bank. So what does the central bank do in an expansionary open market operation? So in that, what the central bank is going to do is the central bank will buy bonds, buys bonds in exchange for money in the open market for bonds. Hence, it's known as an open market operation. In the open market for bonds, thus increasing the amount of money in circulation. So the first part was about how the central bank can increase money supply. That's one expansion open market operation in which you can buy bonds for money, increasing the amount of money in circulation. So now part B is we want to find the new equilibrium interest rate after the central bank has increased the money supply. So we know equilibrium interest rate is where MS is equal to MD. Now, MS is now 150. Initially, it was 100, and MD is 400 minus 2000I. And this was actually from part A. We simplified the money demand function in part A, so we'll be using that. So from here, I is just basically 0.125 or 12.5%. So as money supply increases, I decreases from 15%, which we found in part B, to 12.5%. So increase in money supply causes interest rate to go down. And this was from part B. So now we want to graphically illustrate this. So let's do that. So let's graphically illustrate this now. Okay, so we want to now graphically illustrate this. So we have interest rate I here. We have money M here. So we have this is our original money supply curve, which is vertical at $100. Then we have our downward sloping money demand curve. And we had our original equilibrium at point A, 15% interest rate. Then money supply increases. We were looking at how the money supply increases. So we have MS prime, right? As a result of this, we move to A prime, where I star prime, like we saw, is 12.5%. And now we know it's vertical at a 150 instead. So we can see graphically what has happened is K initial equilibrium. So graphically, So we're essentially doing part 3. Initial equilibrium is at point A. Increase in MS shifts money supply curve to right. As we can see, initially we had MS vertical at M is equal to 100. Now MS prime vertical at M prime is equal to 150. So new equilibrium is at A prime, where it now occurs at the intersection of the new money supply curve and unchanged money demand curve. At intersection of new MS and unchanged MD. And you can see in the new equilibrium, interest rate has gone down from 15% to 12.5%. So this was graphically. Now part 4 asks us to explain this entire adjustment process. So let's do that now. Let me just erase this. Now let's do part 4. We want to explain the adjustment process. Let's read this and yeah, okay, so let's do part 4. So you want to explain the adjustment process from A to A prime. So what happens is we're seeing the money supply increases. Now as a result of this, MS is now greater than MD at original interest rate, which is I star is equal to 15% in this case. So there's excess money supply. Right, so what has happened is graphically, we can illustrate this. Can now, initially you are at point A, right? Where MS is equal to, now money supply increases. So now money supply has increased. So now MS prime is greater than MD at original interest rate 15%. So we have an excess money supply here. So there is excess money supply because money demand is still at this point, but now money supply we can see is higher. So MS prime is greater than MD at the original interest rate, creating an excess supply of money. So now there's excess cash with money holders, excess cash with money holders. They'll use this to buy bonds. So use excess cash to buy bonds, as a result of which demand for bonds will increase. So price of bonds will increase. As a result, interest rate on bonds will go down. Interest rate on bonds I will decrease. Now, why is that? Because we know the bond price and interest rates are inversely related to each other. Bond price and interest rate on bonds I are inversely related. So now we know interest rate and money demand are inversely related as well, right? So when interest rate of bond goes down, money demand increases until money demand is equal to money supply again. So this is the entire adjustment process. Like we said, you start at point A, money supply increases, so at the original interest rate, there's an excess supply of money. This will put pressure on the interest rate to this will put pressure on the interest rate to decrease. And how will that happen? That will happen because now there's excess cash with money holders, which they'll use to buy bonds. Demand for bond increases, price of bond increases. And because price of bond and interest rate on bond are inversely related, interest rate on bonds will go down. And as interest rate on bonds will go down, we can see money demand will increase until money demand is equal to the new money supply and will come at point A prime. So this is how the adjustment process will work.